There we go. Hi, Jim. Jim, you can finish your dinner, I promise. I know you need a break. I know you're human. It doesn't seem like you are, but we appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
There we go.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Scott.
Dixie.
Okay, so actually with Brett, Scott, and I, everybody just check my numbers. Keep me honest. We are at quorum with the committee size being 5 for our ad hoc. So I think we are ready to start. I'm going to start recording. Here we go. So I'd like to call to order the February 8th, 7 o'clock meeting of the ad hoc subcommittee to read the bylaws. At this time, we are recording and we are also live streaming on the WRSD website on YouTube. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. And just don't mind my voice. I'm struggling with a little bit of a head cold and I'm just trying to get over here. 1 second here. Okay, can everybody see our screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So on tonight's agenda, it shouldn't be a terribly long meeting. I don't anticipate. I have heard from Lauren and Deidre that I think they both have different issues. They can't make it tonight. The first thing I wanted to start off with is approval of the minutes of February 2nd, 2023. For anybody who didn't have a chance to review them, I am putting them on the screen right now. Lauren had already finished them, so if you all want to take a minute with that.
They look good to me.
All right.
Yep. Looks fine.
Perfect. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 2023 of the ad hoc meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right. So it's been moved and seconded, and we'll go to a quick roll call vote. Brett?
Beardmore, yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. So I realize there are just 3 of us today, and I can take notes for tonight's meeting. I mean, take the minutes. Sorry, I forgot to ask for volunteers, but it should be okay. So with that, I'm gonna go right into what we talked about at the very end of the committee member feedback from the last meeting. The one member who had said that they submitted feedback in October, there was a sizable amount of feedback they gave. So without any issues, I'll go ahead and read what they had, and that'll take up the next couple of slides. They started out by saying in October, so parts of what they're going to say may be having to go back and put into context. So we'll go with that. They start out by saying, I'll repeat my comments from the meeting. Let's see the committee size shrink first, and then see if the number of subcommittees is an issue with fewer members. The committee has operated before with far fewer than 22 members, so I think the weighted voting aspect will be more jarring than simply having fewer people. Subcommittees should be based on the school committee of that time and allowed to be flexible. If there is an issue to address or is no longer relevant, the full committee should continue to have the power to change the subcommittees and should still have the power to vote to create/remove ad hoc subcommittees as necessary. In the meantime, I think there are more fundamental questions regarding how to document the governance structure before the changes that must take place in May 23. So part of that repeats again, forgive me. Then they go into the next series of bullet points, and we'll go through them here. As the vast majority of school committees in Massachusetts do not have bylaws, I suggest looking at districts for how they set up their governance documents. Perhaps start with those that use weighted voting, like Quabbin, Nauset, and Mohawk Trail. But take a look at other districts that specifically do not have bylaws. How do they accomplish the same ends? What are the features of governance they decide to document? I believe those comparisons would show a path forward to repeal the entire bylaws document and replace it with a combination of policies and operating protocols, which is more in line with the state's norms for school committee governance. The maintenance of the documentation of weighted voting should be addressed in the near future. Looking at Section 1.2 of the new regional agreement, every time someone resigns midterm and isn't replaced immediately, the entire weight of the committee will have to be recalculated. Quorum of the subcommittees is also based on that weight distribution. There is no timeline in the regional agreement on how quickly that recalculation is done, who completes it, or where it will be maintained. Does the recalculation with the resignation have to happen within 24 hours or within 1 week, 1 month, by the next subcommittee meeting, by the next full committee meeting, etc.? How is this change communicated with the public, and how quickly? Should it be posted with the town somewhere specific? These are questions that I'd like to have in a document, for instance, in an operating protocols document. If it's not spelled out, I'm concerned about fidelity to the process of committee operations over time, especially if there is a lot of turnover. A couple more bullet points here, and I think this would wrap up their feedback. Could the full committee see a draft of such a spreadsheet of the weighted voting, along with documentation of who will be tasked with creating and updating it, presented at the next opportunity? I'd also wonder if past meetings could be looked at and have weighted voting applied to those past motions as a practice to see if any hiccups are uncovered that way. For instance, what would a 2/3 vote of prior budgets look like if the weighting in the example in our new regional agreement was applied to the members of that time? So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here, come back, um, and I just wanted to see if, with that feedback that we just went over, I feel like a lot of it was kind of what we discussed at our last meeting with a couple added details. Um, Either Scott or Brett, do you guys have any comments on them or any questions?
It's a lot to parse through. I agree. There was a handful. I mean, I just think we have to just kind of chunk through it. There was some good stuff. I'd like you to pull it back up, to be honest. So and just keep breaking it down. I mean,
Is the
Yeah.
part that,
No, definitely.
so I agree that we heard parts of this already. So a lot of it was familiar to me. I wasn't aware, so I think we should talk about whether this is true. If someone resigns, do we have to reweight people? I didn't think that was the case. I would think that it's just that I think we only have to reweight once a year is I thought was in the regional agreement.
Yeah, that's a good question. So Brett, actually, I'll go back to the first. I'll present the screen again. We'll go back.
Sherry can weigh in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did read through the regional agreement recently, and I don't recall it saying that we had to reweight if people resigned.
For that first paragraph, if it's fluid, I think, or flexible, I think subcommittee should be based on the subcommittee, on the full committee at that time. Like that makes sense, but allowing things to be flexible will never get anywhere. There needs to be some sort of decided upon plan. So I agree with more of the operating procedure. If there's an issue to address no longer relevant, is that stating the obvious there?
Yeah, I think the way I read this, sorry, I hope I can just talk.
No, yeah, please.
No, yeah,
A lot
absolutely.
to
It's just,
tackle
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So I think this is, so right now, what the bylaws say is that full committee can add or remove subcommittees at any time based on a majority vote. And I think I think what this person is saying is they want to continue that practice. And I believe that's still in the bylaws draft that we have. So I totally agree that the committee should be able to add or remove subcommittees at any point. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. There might need a subcommittee for, I don't know, something I haven't thought of yet.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I said this at the last meeting. I'm starting to lean in the direction of I'm not sure we need to reduce the number of subcommittees. There's 22 members now, but maybe we go from 5 people on a subcommittee to 3 people on a subcommittee, and that works just fine.
Yeah, that's
I think we're. I mean, we might even. I was hoping tonight we could kind of align on that point in itself. That's what I was hoping tonight.
Yeah. So coming up further down.
Put that to rest.
Yeah. Further down the agenda item. So after reviewing, some of the feedback here, I'm just going to go back to it real quick. I did add some things we brought over from the last meeting, especially Scott, what you mentioned about defining the majority weight, the way of voting. That shouldn't be a huge task, but that last part of our last meeting where we talked about creating a bylaws versus policy document, possibly with kind of a pros and cons kind of analysis, to really, when we present, to help kind of give as comprehensive as an overview of what would some of those look like, the pros and cons. So that was just one of the things I put out down here for later. But yeah, no, I think you're right, Brett. We can kind of nail that down tonight.
Thank you.
Then they talk about, in the meantime, I think there are more fundamental questions regarding how the governance structure takes place before May 2023. I think with that,
just go ahead and advance, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Advance the slides just so we can see the.
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think with that too, we can consider that the total governance of the committee size isn't reducing overnight, and it's going to be gradual. So that's something too we can take into account if we talk about any major governing changes. Losing a couple of committee members size-wise this year may not be like a huge impact.
Which is why I think we need to keep the subcommittee structure as it is for now.
Right. We talked about the last meeting, yeah. So, I'll give you guys another. Oh, go ahead, yeah.
So the bylaws. So I was hoping we could also put a nail in that coffin. Are we doing away with the bylaws? Do we need to dedicate a meeting to discussing doing away with the bylaws altogether? I'd like to put a nail on that too. I feel like we've talked about it. We just need to just make a decision and move forward, whether it's with the full committee or not.
Oh, sure. Actually, so I'm on share screen. I can't see who raised their hand, but go right ahead.
Sherry did.
Sherry.
I think that you probably would be best off making that a full committee decision, or at least a straw poll discussion, because you certainly don't want to put in the work to do that and then have everybody be upset that they want bylaws and not policy, especially considering that this committee, this ad hoc, was given the task of reviewing the bylaws, not changing them over to policy.
I 100% agree, and I would totally support that. I just feel like we've gotten, I don't know if we've gotten the same comment from multiple people. I just know that this comment keeps coming up, and I'd like to get closure on it.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it either. Is it something you guys would want to? We kind of have a full agenda on Monday.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, so Sharon, not to interrupt, I just wanted to ask if the subcommittee here met one more time and we all 5 of us, or a majority in some way, shape, or form of our subcommittee agrees, not for this upcoming meeting, but maybe for the one right after, it would be something we can put on the table. Yeah. How does that sound to you guys?
100%.
It'd probably be good if you guys can have a recommendation at that point too, with your pros and cons of doing it either way, so that they can make an informed decision.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
fair.
good to know.
So yeah, we're not ready to discuss with the full committee, but I think it's a good action.
Yeah. So I'll give everybody a couple more minutes to look through this slide here. I know a couple more bullet points, but we could discuss from there.
Well, I can just speak to the 1.2 in the regional agreement. I did pull it up, and I don't read it that way at all. Do you want me to read it to you, or you want me to just give you my synopsis?
Synopsis is
You
fine.
can synopsis is fine.
Yeah,
I
synopsis
mean,
is fine.
it just says that it's recalculated by the committee every 5 years. Or it says, or every time the number of members on the committee changes, which might be where there was confusion. But it doesn't mean, that doesn't mean when somebody resigns. It means when we actually go down from 19 to 16.
Right.
It doesn't mean if somebody's not there. There is another section in the agreement, 1.6, that says if the vacancy of a committee occurs, the select board from the town shall appoint the member to serve until the next annual town election. It doesn't give them a time frame that they have to do it, but the town will be losing a vote at that time. It doesn't just get reweighted based on a vacancy.
Okay, that's good to know. Actually, if you consider
Just like
that
if it
context.
were not weighted, that one vote wouldn't be there.
Right.
I
Right.
think.
I think I said this last time, but I think we overthink the weighting sometimes because technically we have weighted voting now. It's just that they're all one, right? And if we think of it that way, then it doesn't really change that much going forward.
Scott, I think that should go into when we present to the full committee. I think that should be like the main statement. Like, I think people are fearing change and they're afraid of the unknown, but
Right.
I think that might ground people a bit.
Right. It's a good point. Yeah. So the other thing, yeah, that could definitely be something we could reiterate too. Down to the last point, I think so. Even some of the points here kind of repeat themselves in different ways. But is there anything else you guys want to discuss between these 4 points?
No, thank you. Not me.
Yeah. All right, I'll go to the next slide here. Okay, right. Could we see a draft? Right.
And yeah, I think that's what we should be presenting. I mean, I feel like we have a draft. Do we?
Right.
Yeah, Barry made a draft,
Yeah.
and I asked him for a couple revisions to add in some abstentions to show if people were in the room or not, or absent completely. And then we have to do a separate spreadsheet, slightly separate spreadsheet for the actual vote of the budget, because that doesn't account for the people in the room. It accounts for the number in the full committee. So it's just a little bit of a different calculation.
Right.
But
Okay.
but he did make those changes that I asked for, and I have been playing around with it a little bit, adding in our subcommittees now and seeing how the votes would look based on our current subcommittee makeups.
Okay.
Do you think that it will be ready by not this next meeting, but the following meeting? I mean,
I'm sure we can present something.
pretty final draft.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the actual spreadsheet that get used in May, I think my concern is that it be very user friendly for Randy, so that as we're going around, she can easily figure out, easily click around and make her votes. I think we are going to have to go to some alphabetic kind of system so that she can go down a line rather than trying to find each of us in there. And right now my next question to Barry is if he can change it so that people who are not there, if we just click them off, that she can't accidentally put a vote in their spot.
Like a filter or something, not like a drop down filter that select names. That'd be good.
Yeah. So
It's that
it's still a work in progress, but we are working on it.
cool.
Yeah. All right. So then I believe, yep. So that brings us back. I'll stop presenting. Okay. So with that, then we kind of did. Does that sound good to everybody? That we'll meet one more time before the not this upcoming meeting, but the one right after that to present, and then we'll have a document with kind of the pros and cons of bylaws versus policy. Well, that's if we have a recommendation put forth by our subcommittee to go forward to at the full table, if that works. Yeah. Um, so then Scott too, with your the item you brought up about defining the majority
Yes.
with the weighted voting, um, we could incorporate that too
Okay.
into our discussion on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking for the document that I thought I put into our folder, the subcommittee folder, and I'm not seeing it.
All right, let me take a look. You don't by chance remember what date it was from, do you? Because what I see when I open the
It was
folder.
from December. It was from early to mid-December.
What are you
Gotcha.
looking for, Scott?
I had written up just a recommendation for putting a few sentences into the bylaws about how we define majority, because I thought if we just define majority, that will carry over to a bunch of other places in our policies and our bylaws where it talks about a majority vote. So basically just define majority as the majority of the weighted votes, I think would cover us in most cases, so we wouldn't have to revise policies and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we can take a look and we'll see if we can locate that document.
I'm looking on my computer too.
Oh, right, to see, yeah. No, and so while Scott's doing that, Brett, actually, did you have any other comments or anything about the rest of the feedback now that we have all of it um, with the
No, those are the
bylaws?
two main things I think is just kind of the bylaws and maybe it was just the
Yeah,
bylaws that
that's pretty much I had. What I had. I thought the sampling.
we lost you or I lost you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Kamara, you're frozen, and we can't hear you. Okay.
And I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
Yeah. So no, what I was trying to say was based on the recommendation, whatever it ends up being that we bring up to the meeting 2 weeks from now at the full table, then we can see if any other feedback is there too. See what the uh, appetite is at this moment for anything like that. So we can see there too. The only other thing I really had for tonight was scheduling our next subcommittee meeting, which we can go over looking at that recommendation for bylaw versus policy document or approach. And just want to point out the week of the 19th is school vacation week. And then that really, looking at Randy's posting, just going to bring it up here real quick. I didn't know if certain days work better for everybody else, but we can also base off of the posting. The 13th, we have our full table meeting. And then the 15th, there's facilities and security. 14th is Valentine's Day. and I kind of get the impression it brings us to after school vacation week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could, maybe what we could do is have Randy reach out, incorporate email, including Lauren and Deidre. We could figure out what time might work better for them as well. If that works for you guys.
Yeah, I think since they're not here, we should reach out via email.
Yeah. So, but yeah, with that, then, and Scott, we can touch base too. Figure out if you find that document, we can upload it into the
Yes, I'll
shared drive.
find it. I printed some out for the meeting I thought we were having that day, and then it didn't. I think the meeting got canceled.
it?
So I have a printout of it in my bag, if nothing else.
All right, no, that sounds great.
I could retype it and send it to you if I don't find it in the next 10 minutes here.
Okay.
It was
No,
not
that sounds
very
good.
long, so it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we will go to a very, very quick rapid roll call. Scott,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. So once again, thank you, everybody. That was a record-breaking, something shy of 26 minutes with an interruption in service here. But I hope you all have the rest of a good night here and get back some of your time tonight. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See
Thanks,
you Monday.
Tamara.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.